So we rank the top 100 best Marvel minifigures of all time, but you can't have the best without some of the bottom of the barrel worst. The majority of my LEGO collection is made up of LEGO Marvel superhero sets, so I've gained an understanding of some of the good and bad. Luckily, I'm joined by the notorious Daniel Awa, and we're going to get deep dived into this ranking. A couple of rules and criteria are: number one, there are no grunts, civilians, nameless characters within Marvel superhero sets in this list. It's all named heroes or villains. Number two, it is completely subjective, just our opinion. We could be completely wrong in your opinion.
Superheroes and villains are the bread and butter of Marvel. This is why we care so much about the figures and why we're making all these videos just on these Marvel minifigs, and why these 10 in particular are a bit of a letdown.
Could you please announce what our 10th worst Marvel minifigure is, please?
Baron von Strucker from Age of Ultron.
I'll just preface by saying this. He's actually not terrible, okay? It's just a matter of a little bit of laziness and inaccuracies. Can you see here, Daniel, how he looks? He's based off Avengers 2 Age of Ultron, this minifigure specifically, but his suit, they opted for an all blue jumpsuit rather than a more black and green detailed combat suit kind of that he has in Age of Ultron. Can't you see where I'm coming from?
I guess so. It's like Jason Sindola's hair being brown instead of green.
A problem with a lot of these is that they feel unfinished. You know, there's a lot of on this list feel like there could be more detail, and I guess maybe you could say that about any minifigure in general.
If you look at our top 100 Marvel figs of all time, it goes to show that you can have really nice finished Marvel figs, and it does make these ones look very unfinished.
Ninth worst Marvel minifigure is Talos. Not really a comic book version. It's more, it's based off the Captain Marvel movies, or maybe nowadays you could say Secret Invasion, but we're going to pretend that that movie did not happen. Looking at these side by side, Daniel, what's the number one thing that you notice? It's pretty obvious.
The pants?
You know what?
The color of the green.
It's just the bright neon green is a little bit outrageous, because in the movie it's a lot more muted and multicolored green, whereas this one they completely opted for a Toy Story alien bright neon green, which is a little bit crazy and hard on the eyes. They do have the detail here with the robe on his torso. The actual robe has a skirt and extends all the way down, as we can see on the image here, but they just opted for the black pants. Like a lot of Marvel minifigures, they just toss black pants on them, but you know what? That's fine. Not completely terrible. It is a little bit weird how the printing ends on his head and doesn't go up to his hat piece. So it just kind of looks like cut off like a bald cap. What's our number 8 pick here?
Hank Pym, or a version of Hank Pym that we have never seen in either comics or movies.
Daniel Lewa does like this minifigure. Matter of fact, he wanted this minifigure on the top 100 Marvel minifigures of all time. And you know what? As a minifigure, it doesn't look bad. It looks like Ant-Man Scott Lang's suit, except just black and red rather than silver and red. But the only issue is, where did this suit ever make an appearance in anything, in comic book history or in the movie that the set is from? That's my main problem. A lot of these sets are based on conceptual artwork or pre-conceptual artwork for the movie. So that would have to be my main guess, is that the only thing that this could have come from, because you can see this is Hank Pym in his suit right here. That's the one that Scott Lang steals. It just does not have this black head. It must have been based on some sort of scrapped preconceptual artwork they didn't know wasn't going to make into the final movie.
It is nice though that they even included leg printing on this, and so many, if not the majority of Marvel figures do not have any sort of leg printing. So as far as detail, this figure is actually pretty good, and I think the helmet, the exclusive helmet in particular, is a really nice touch.
Totally, except the helmet isn't accurate to the movie one either, because it has a mouth gap, which is more reminiscent of the comic book Ant-Man, but the one in the movie doesn't have any exposed part in the face because the whole thing is covered. So that's also an interesting change. Number 7th worst Marvel minifigure, Proxima Midnight, is actually not terrible either, but it is on here for a reason. That reason being, it feels a little bit unfinished. This minifigure is based off of Infinity War, which is interesting because it has the sort of horns on the mask here, which look more like the comic book version of Proxima Midnight rather than the more organic horns that she has in the movie as such. It would benefit a lot for some leg printing. As you can see, her whole suit extends not just on her torso, but to her legs.
Feels like the entire suit was way more comics based than movie based. The colors are way too bright, and the face also. It would have been nicer probably if it was like a purple or more flesh tone face with black or blue printing on the forehead instead of printing on the mouth area. There's just a lot of weird inconsistencies here, and for a figure that came in the movie-based sets, it would have been nice if it actually looked anything like the movie figure.
They're the Marvel Studios Infinity War Lego sets. That's what they're based off. And I'm grateful it's a more comic book looking thing, because I think that the Black Order looks a little bit cooler in the comics anyways, but it is a little weird hybrid of the two. A lot of the Marvel minifigures, the Marvel movie minifigures, are adaptations of a movie, which are adaptations of the comics. So sometimes you kind of get watered down into some sort of weird hybrid or something that looks unfinished. Next up,
number 6, we have 7-Up Junior. Okay, next up we have number 6, Sprite. This is not Sprite Cranberry. This is Sprite from Eternals. It looks fine as a figure. It's a unique color scheme to have, and the details on the torso are okay, but it feels way too short. Like, why are we using short legs here when we could use the medium bendable legs? And also the hair is kind of a wonky color and length. Does not quite do the character justice.
Yeah, it feels a little bit lazy to slap on the Agent Fuse hair from Lego Agents, when in the reality the character from Eternals movie has more of a mullet. Maybe it's definitely unwarranted to create a whole new hair mold for this specific character, a very small and minor one, no pun intended. But man, speaking of Sprite, like, talk about Baja Blast. Like, the color scheme that they gave this is literally straight from Taco Bell. Doesn't really look like the one from the movie. It's more of a blue rather than just a blatant bright, what is this, turquoise maybe?
Yeah, they could have done like sand blue or dark medium azure. Would have been closer even than turquoise.
Right, but a lot of these things I think are victim to being based on preconceptual artwork, not being able to have the exact tones right of what the final film comes out to be. So again, it looks like a complete infant, like toddler with the tiny legs. It definitely could benefit from medium legs, making the arms look more proportionate to the entire body. Just more griping on our end. But hey, let's talk about something even worse. Taskmaster from the Black Widow movies. Although this character was bad in the movie, subjectively, it translates very well to the minifigure how bad it was. Again, suffers from a lack of detail. You can see in the movie they gave Taskmaster a cool suit. Armor on the chest and on the legs. Again, as Daniel Lewa said, we're rarely getting any sort of leg printing, period. Like, leg printing is like a privilege or something. Or arms, nothing on this Taskmaster. Complete basic, probably as basic as you could get. This is a far cry from the comic books Taskmaster minifigure that we already had. Next up,
number 4 is the Green Goblin green outfit without mask, dark brown hair. So this is the Spider-Man No Way Home version of Green Goblin. So based off the Willem Dafoe, who, what an amazing portrayal in the movie, by the way. That is absolutely phenomenal. And it is kind of a little more grounded approach to Green Goblin, whereas this feels a little more comic booky, a little brighter and more colorful than what you would expect from such a kind of a dark take on the character.
Yeah, and I would even argue it's not even comic booky. It's nothing. You couldn't show me this minifigure, and I could not tell you what character that was. Honestly, maybe it should rank even higher, but you could show me this minifigure, and I could not tell you that it's one of the most iconic Spider-Man villains and one of the best actors in the whole world. The face details are okay. It does, Norman Osborn. On his suit in the movie, there are some bright green spots, but it's so dark and dingy and beat up and torn up on purpose that having it complete blatantly green, bright green suit like this does not make it look accurate. They didn't give this man a hood. They didn't give this man any sort of arm printing, leg printing.
Imagine if this guy got like the CMF treatment where you have a dual molded green and purple arm, side leg, or like full front side leg printing with purple and green accents. And this could have been really something special, but instead, it's like, okay, you got to give out these Marvel figs, and that's understandable, so kids have something to play with. A little bit missing the mark.
It's disappointing. I think this is only our second Willem Dafoe minifigure ever, and the first one was from the freaking 1800s when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out. There's no way you're going to get that minifigure today, so here was our shot. This is kind of what we get, especially sad because we have like the best Doc Ock figure with the Alfred Molina one that also comes in this set. It's just a little bit disappointing.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, Razor Fist. Number 3, Razor Fist. Razor Fist looked different. I think maybe Green Goblin is possibly worse than this one, but here we are, the Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok, Daniel Lewa's favorite character. We all love that Taika Waititi funny humor. Well, you guys supported that, and we got Thor Love and Thunder, so look where that brought us. Anyways, again, very, very similar problems. an unfinished minifigure. Dual arms is good. His robe has a long gold sleeve on one side and an exposed blue sleeve on the other side. But he's wearing this big, elegant robe with a collar. And these pieces do exist. Like, we do have a collar piece for minifigures. We do have skirt pieces for minifigures. So it does seem a little bit, I don't know, lazy maybe, or unfinished.
It's just funny because, like, on some of these you can tell that they're trying to incorporate a lot of the aspects of the character, like on Proxima and on this one, where it's like, okay, they have some different colored components, different colored arms, so we'll do that. But then they stop there. And so it's almost like if you had gone even less detailed, it maybe would have looked better, because right now it looks like you got halfway there and then stopped, which is a little awkward. The other thing is they seem to struggle with those kinds of cape or robe pieces especially for the bottom half, when you have something that's more flowy. On Talos, you kind of have a similar problem.
It's a pretty accurate torso, so I see what you're saying, but it is interesting that all of the minifigures on this top 10 worst are from movies. They are not the comic book minifigures. They're all MCU minifigures, which is just kind of what I'm trying to say about things being lost in the funnel from going from the comics to movies to minifigures. We kind of lose the plot.
Number 2 is Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3. So I want to hear from Matt why he thinks this is such a bad fig, because I think the glow-in-the-dark head is actually pretty cool, and like the red kind of glowing veins popping out on the alternate face is actually pretty cool.
Well, I mean, like, speaking of Baja Blast, like, this literally looks like me if I ever visit Taco Bell. They not only made him a puking color, but they gave him a puking expression on his face. And honestly, I can't believe it. So one, it's ugly. But the main huge reason is this is obviously not what the character looks like from Iron Man 3. It would have had to be a preconceptual artwork misunderstanding or change. That's the only explanation. I can't think. Like, it almost looks like they had a description of the character, of the extremist abilities are going to make him glow red, and so they did what they did. But man, he looks old, he looks sickly. I really don't see any redeeming quality about this minifigure. Glow in the dark, great, but is it going to glow in the dark red? Like, this character would never glow in the dark blue or green ever.
It is unfortunate because in another universe, in an alternate timeline, you could have made this figure as a shirtless figure, kind of like what we see here with kind of the dragony tattoos, a red or dark red torso or something, flesh torso with red tattoos or something to give indication of glowing. Because as you look at it now, you cannot look at it and be like, that's Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3. Because that's just not what it looks like. And ideally, with these figures, especially the movie reference ones, you want to be able to see it and be like, I know exactly who that is because of all the detail, because of the likeness and everything.
Yeah, we've seen what they can do with Lego tattoo printing on minifigures with Drax the Destroyer, which made our top 100 best minifigures with his amazing tattoo printing. That would have been actually so dope to see an accurate depiction. Oh, yeah. And I wonder why, I guess it's not a smart financial decision to go back and make a new minifigure now that the movie has come out, I guess. But I mean, for us fans, it would be appreciated. But that's all just killing. But the number one worst Marvel minifigure, in our opinion, it's got to be Gorr the God Butcher, specifically based on Thor 4 Love and Thunder. If you got some napkins and patted down your Little Caesars pizza and got the grease off, this is what it would look like. I kid you not, bro. Like,
wow, what's with all the food imagery today? It's tough because with this one, you have to separate the atrocious movie, in our opinion, atrocious depiction of this character, in our opinion, from the figure. And even then, if you be like, okay, we just hate the character as it is in the movie, even then, the figure itself is just kind of blah. Like, this looks like it could have been in some sort of Indiana Jones set. It's just like a mummy that pops out of a tomb or something, which in that kind of a case could be kind of cool. But as supposedly one of the craziest villains ever, and it just looks like, yeah, he's dressing up for his Halloween.
And there's greasy splotches too on his... And here's the thing, guys. Gorr the God Butcher, he's one of Thor's biggest villains. He's absolutely crazy. He wields all black. He kills actual gods. In the comics, they try to translate that over to the movie. However you feel about the movie, that's whatever. From the comic book to movie adaptation, it's not the worst. Like, it's okay. Christian Bale can have his nose. He doesn't have to, the design is fine. But there's so much more detail in the movie version of this that didn't come over to the minifigure. He has an entire robe on. He has a whole scarf on. The printing on the top of his head doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like it's even going to go up to 2 stripes like it is above his eyebrows in the movie. It just looks like 2 random splotches. A lot wrong, and for a movie that only got 3 sets, and this is the only villain, you think he would get a little bit better of a treatment. Because there were some okay minifigures in Love and Thunder. The Mighty Thor, Jane Foster, I really like that one. The blue suit Thor, whatever. But man, they just gave Gorr absolutely nothing. Even his sword was just the default sword, but black. No special treatment whatsoever, and it's very disappointing. If we're gonna get a bad adaptation of a movie villain, then could we at least get a good minifigure or something? I'm just saying.
Again, it's another good example of they can't translate these kind of robes or skirt-like things very well. I don't know why. We see on some of the Dreams figures, they have some skirt pieces and stuff there. It'd be tough to kind of integrate like a full body robe potentially, but so many characters in these movies need that.
Number 1, don't be afraid to put the fabric pieces on these characters. Number 2, is it just too expensive? Is that just an extra expense that they don't have to deal with? Like, okay, we know these Marvel sets, or you can even say Star Wars sets, are going to sell themselves. We're not going to go the extra mile on any of these, basically because we don't have to. But I don't know, is fabric really that expensive? It's just a problem. Like, the best part about Marvel superheroes are the superheroes and the villains. So in the Marvel superheroes Lego sets, you'd expect those to be the number 1 priority, even over the builds and all that, because that's what it's all about. That's why they do things like the buildable action figures, Wolverine, Green Goblin, all that, because it's about the character. So it'd be nice to have just a little bit more treatment for some of these Marvel superhero minifigures.
100%. People aren't going to really care about Miles Morales' buggy. You want Miles Morales themselves. You want potentially Aldrich Killian himself, and the best depiction of that possible in collectible form. So when you get something like this, it's like, well, okay, as a toy, I guess it's fine, but even kids recognize quality.
What is your worst Marvel minifigure? Do you agree with this list, or are we completely whining about stuff that completely doesn't matter whatsoever, as I usually tend to do? Speaking of things that don't matter, here are some people who do matter, and that would be MC Goat, brand new member to the Sakuga Squadron, Oliver J. the Ginger Lender, Dr. Dan PhD, and I'm Lidme. Thank you guys so much for being members on the channel and being part of the Sakuga Squadron. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Daniel Lewa, for joining me on this Marvel minifigure ranking.
If you made it this far in the video, comment Palafin in the comments below. Superhero-themed Pokemon.
And remember, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we have a special video in store for when we hit that milestone.